errors can actually be good. They can actually make it more interesting. Characters can do these kind of things. In that play, for example, I have Jessica wailing about me using the excerpts in the science fiction book. And so I have her, basically, she takes control of my play. And the adulterer, there's a scene where the brother of my cousin, or my male cousin, the brother of my female cousin who's cheated on, punches the adulterer. And so Jessica, in her jollies within the play, 10 times has that repeated because she wants to see him getting hit. So the poor actor is going to have to pretend to get hit 10 more times because Jessica wants to take over my play to teach me a lesson. And in the end,
it seems to that you use almost word for word some of your interactions with her. I know because I've had the same conversation with her in a different context about her portrayal in the first play. And it seems that, except for a few jazzed up words, that it's almost a transcript of your conversation.
Well, I think I might have mentioned this the last time we talked, is one of the things that a lot of people have said, one of the things some of these morons online will say is that I don't have emotion in my poems or in my writing or something, which is as ridiculous a charge as was leveled against Wallace Stevens to not have emotion. I mean, I'm a great, but one of the things is all of these plays are going to be somehow tied. Sometimes they'll be 90% tied to real things that happened in my life. Other times maybe 5% tied. Sometimes I will make up totally fictional characters, like in this first play, Megan and Valerie, or in this play Exteriors, where I'm going to make up basically what I'm doing is I'm taking, there was a girl I had a one-night stand with 30 years ago at a writer's forum. She was a white girl, but I said, what if I take this black family, which was the initial idea of black females, and the play isn't about being black or female, but it's about the mother who has Alzheimer's. What if I take this girl I had the one-night stand with, make her black, and make her the oldest daughter who's the narrator? That gives Danny Wagner into the play. But then I also combine her with I give her the name of this woman that I knew that I worked with recently, and I also they also remain friends for 30 years, which is what has happened with this long-standing female friend that I had from the early 90s who I initially was dating, and then we became friends. So I took 3 women, combined them into one, or I am going to combine them into one, and that's the basis of that play. And so that's the thin thread that ties back to my life. This play about this Big Al's Gina that I'm doing, that I'm 12,000 words into, is going to be a very raw play about this guy whose daughter tried to commit suicide. I don't know if she succeeded, and his relationship because of his infidelity. I make it because of his infidelity in the play. I don't know what in real life it was about, but yet it's also going to have more spokes, more axles, in that this character is going to be the Big Al character is going to be a sort of avatar for the Eddie Wagner character, my dad's character, in the second play. And so if I do 25 or 30 of these plays, there's going to be this, they are within the Schneider verse, because they mention the Maravelli crime family. They mention other characters, Bit von Rheingold porno films. So these characters live within that universe to a certain extent, but it's also going to be its own creation. And over the next couple of years, I'll probably do that. I may do, depending on job circumstances or whatnot, I may do this custodial book, or maybe my Gorgeous George book in between for a couple of months, just to get a break if I get tired 10 or 12 plays in. But now I switched over, and everything is, I'm just like a giant amoeba pulling things into dramatic situations. So it's interesting, and it's fun. I feel reinvigorated, and after the last couple of years of lousiness in my personal life, whether it ends soon or not, hopefully it does, but that, at least I can say, that helped push me towards doing this stuff. So and I think the plays also, because I've been doing these actor interviews, and I recently put up an actor interview trailer, I'm going to see if some of these people would want to at least read some of these plays, because some of these actors could could play some of these characters. There's a woman named Michelle Green who was on L.A. Law. I think she could, she's a few years older than Megan Follows, the actress, but she could probably be a good Megan character, or Megan character. It's Megan in the play, not Megan. If Valerie Bertinelli, someone like that, Stephanie Kramer could probably be a Valerie character. She's good, still good looking at 60. The really standout character that is the dominant one within the diegesis of the second play is my Aunt Darla, which was based on my real Aunt Dottie. But she's a real monster of a bigot and a self-centered narcissist. And yet I think this woman who's on General Hospital, Kathleen Gaddy, I think she could totally nail this Aunt Darla character. So I'm going to send that to her. This guy, Paul Parducci, this big macho Italian guy who I interviewed, this actor who I used in the trailer, he could play this Big Al character. He could also perhaps play my dad in the second play. So hopefully maybe I can find some theaters that are willing to look at it around the country, send it open calls. I don't know, you send manuscripts. I'll have to find out about that. Or maybe to some of these people, because they could play these characters, and some of them have said they want to see great roles. I'll say, here's a fucking role you could play. If you can get it, put on in Milwaukee or wherever the hell they might live, or Phoenix or something, go ahead, take the play around. And if you can find someone who wants to produce it, let me know. Because I think there's a better chance of that than with these motherfucking MFA fuckers and the New York presses.
On a tangential point, I wanted to mention too, this form of play seems the most natural to you since poetry in many ways, in that it's constructed mostly by dialogue. You had mentioned before how you could write dialogue and get the characters just interacting because you feel they're there, but framing the scene sometimes takes the longest for you. Poetry seemed to have been your natural inclination early on, and this is another. Do you agree with that? And do you think that the dialogue is generally an easier thing for you to write since it's 90?
Well, yes and no. For the 30-year-old.
One other thing, I wasn't finished. The Edge of the Shown, though, seems to break off from that tradition in that it's mostly an interior monologue, although it switches, as again, some ambiguities allow you to do a little more into what the narrator is or is not speaking about and who you could be. So, speak a little more about that point too. And I felt reading The Edge of the Shown was probably the biggest outlier in all of your works.
Well, I think if I look at some of the earlier stuff like that, The Trial of Horacio Guzman, you'd probably say that was the biggest outlier because, and Jessica hates that book, but for the 30-year-old Dan Schneider, poetry is natural. For the late 40s Dan Schneider of the Vincetti Brothers and Norwegian and this trilogy, the novel form was the most natural. But I think a combination of my life circumstance, the desire to maybe move and do something different that maybe is more commercially a chance to get it out there. Right now, in the last couple of months, it's become the play. So I'm someone who can adapt. I'm like an octopus or a cephalopod, to go back to The Edge of the Shown, is that I can change my colors and stripes as is needed. Jessica, for example, says that she can't write in the morning. I've worked all kinds of shifts, all kinds of hours. So I've adapted myself. I have trained my mind that if I have an hour here, well, maybe I'll write 1,500 words in that hour. Just before today, for example, in the last 2 days, I was going to start this Big Al's Gina play tomorrow, on Monday. But yesterday, after I got finished with the Mormon thing, and I think I started actually before I did the interview for about an hour, I said, well, I got some time here. I did my shopping. I did a few errands. Let me just start it right now. So I started it. And I got about 5,000 words in or something, 7,000 words in, and then I did another 5,000 today. It's probably only going to be about 30,000. It's the shortest of the three plays. But I've adapted to it. And this is another thing, too, that artists have to do, especially when we have to waste 40-plus hours doing stuff to eat because we live in a society that doesn't recognize, much less reward, great art, really great artists. We don't, I was just looking, I sent out a thing for an acting interview to this Broadway star, and he has on his thing, we need to support the National Endowment for the Arts here in the U.S. You're in Canada, for people who don't know. And it's like, we don't need to support organizations for arts. We need to support the great artists because 99% of those people plus are not going to be great artists. There's no reason to support hacks. Don't take my tax money so that some hack can get a grant and take 10 years to write a mediocre piece of shit. I think I talked about a year or so ago that guy Peter Damian Bellis, who had contacted me and wrote this Conjure Man book, and for 20 years he's been sending it around or whatnot, and it's maybe a 70 out of 100. I mean, it's not a bad book. I mean, his dialogue is atrocious as far as black dialogue. This is something too that I think that Tom was weak in his book with the black dialogue or the Southern dialogue, but I don't want the Peter Damian Bellises. I don't want the Bob Grummans to get money, my tax money that I worked my fucking ass off, so that they can fucking get a grant and put out shit. Martha McCoo. Hitler's dingleberries times the sun's axis around Pluto equals, whatever, strawberries, that's not art, for God's sake.
It can only be strawberries.
Yeah, that's not art. These people should not be getting money. They should be told, become a fucking plumber. You'll serve humanity better by cleaning out toilets rather than me cleaning out toilets. But we don't live in a society that, let's be honest. Tell people who are bad at things that they are bad, but you better know what the fuck you're talking about and not be these motherfucking asshole trolls that are just sticking their fingers up their asses and sniffing them in lieu of strawberries.